You are listening to continuing coverage of the trial of Chad Daybell from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast. Let's go back to the courtroom.
I swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth.
All right, good morning, Ms. Geisler. Before we commence with examination by the state, I just have a few questions now that you've been placed under oath. This trial has been broadcast on a court YouTube channel and publicly available to view. Have you observed any of the trial testimony since the case began?
I have not.
Okay. Have you discussed with anyone else the testimony they've been in the trial?
I have not.
Okay. Thanks for your responses. Mr. Wixom, you can inquire on direct.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, will you please state your full name for the record?
Yep. Jennifer C. Geisler.
Will you please spell that?
JENNIFERCGEISLER.
Thank you. And where do you live?
I live in St. Anthony.
And where do you work?
I work at Central Elementary.
What is your job there?
I'm a first grade teacher. Yep, first grade.
How long have you worked at the elementary school?
It's been about 26 years.
I want to draw your attention back to the summer and fall of 2019. Do you remember working with Tammy Daybell?
I do.
Okay. Can you explain to the jury, well, first, did you have interactions with Tammy at work?
I did. She was our librarian.
Could you please explain to the jury how often or frequently you interacted with her and what capacity?
I would probably see her at least every day going back and forth in the hall. I took my class to library once a week. And so it's stop and talk. Frequently, probably about 2 to 3 times a week, I ate lunch with her. Our first grade team eats lunch first, and we go into the lunchroom, our teacher workroom, and Tammy usually would come in and eat with us.
How would you describe your relationship with Tammy just overall?
Just friends. We were good friends.
And while working with her, what did you observe about her personality overall?
She was just super friendly, always bubbly, happy. She was a person that you would like to be around.
Was that the case in the late summer, early fall of 2019 before she passed?
Yeah. Yep.
And did you ever do anything or associate with Tammy outside of school?
I did.
What did you do?
So she came to, it was a high fitness class that we had up in St. Anthony. And twice a week, I had invited her and Emma to come up and give it a try. And they came up and joined us. It's about an hour twice a week at night. And so they came up and exercised with us.
Was she regularly attending the class after you invited her?
She did.
Did she come both classes each week?
Most often.
When she was in class with you, did you have any opportunity to observe how she was doing in class?
So most of the time I was up in the front row. Tammy and Emma are in the back row. So I didn't get to see them through every song, but some of the songs you turn around and you can see they were always funny and giggly back there and would sometimes add their own moves into the songs with them. And then at the end of the class, my sister and I go back and we kind of check everybody out. I punch her base cards. And so as they come through, could talk to Tammy and Emma as they came through.
Did Tammy ever make any comments about how she was doing in class?
She loved it. She always thought it was just fun.
Did you observe how she was performing? Did she seem to be keeping up in the class?
Yeah, she did. Like when they come through, usually when you finish, you're pretty sweaty. And as she came through, she was as sweaty as everybody else.
Do you recall ever seeing any times where she had to take a break or got short of breath, anything like that?
Not that I recall.
When was the last time that you personally recall interacting with Tammy?
It was the Friday right before she died.
What was that interaction that you had with her?
I ate lunch across the table from her.
And what observations, if any, did you have of her health that day?
Just like a normal day. She was healthy, happy, talkative. She was sitting by her son, Seth. He was substituting that day and just a normal day.
What was your reaction when you had learned that she passed?
I was super surprised that she had passed.
Why?
because she was just so healthy just the day before, and I was just talking to her.
And then last question, based upon what you observed, do you think you had enough opportunity to see Tammy in class and how her performance to have a fair assessment of how she was doing?
I do.
So had she fallen back or gotten tired, do you believe that you would have seen that?
Yeah.
How far away were you from her in the class typically?
I'm terrible at distance. I was like, she's probably 3 rows back, and it's just in their small little elementary gym.
Do you feel like you could see her well?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
Good morning.
Good morning.
About what time did Tammy and Emma sign up for the Zumba class?
Mhm. I don't remember the exact day.
Okay. Do you remember talking to Officer Mattingly about that?
I do.
Okay. Would it surprise you to learn that you told Officer Mattingly that Tammy had been in the Zumba class for around 4 months?
Yes, I think I did.
About what you said?
That's about what I said.
Okay. You also told Officer Mattingly that you didn't know whether Tammy was doing the high workout or the low intensity workout. Remember telling him that as well?
I remember telling him I didn't get to see her with every song, but as I turned, you could look back that way.
Okay. And you were in the front row, right?
I am.
And Tammy was in the back row.
Yes.
So in order to see Tammy, you would have had to purposely turn around and observe her, right?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, Emma was at every single one of the classes with her mother, correct?
Yes, she would come with her mom.
Now, you first met Tammy when?
When she started teaching, or was our librarian hired at our school.
2018?
If that's when. I can't remember when she was hired.
Okay. You mentioned that you guys were such good friends. You never went over to her house, though, did you?
No, just like school friends.
Oh, school friends. So you would just talk periodically during the day, right?
Right.
And teachers are busy. They have to take care of their students, correct?
Yep. We have our downtime at lunch.
Right. But the reality is that most of the downtime at lunch, it was Tammy and Emma who were spending their time together at almost every lunch. Do you recall that?
So Tammy would come in and sit with us to eat. Emma taught 3rd grade, and so her lunch was a little bit later in the day.
But they would spend time during the lunch hour together, right?
Possibly, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Judge, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Redirect?
May I have just a couple of questions?
Yes.
Thank you. Ma'am, just to be clear, are Zumba and high fitness class the same class?
So that's, I was checking because I had talked to him before about Zumba. When I had asked Chrissy just before, how long have we been doing high fit? And she had clarified that we've been doing it for 6 years. And so it was more high fit when Emma and Tammy started coming. High fit is more intense. You got lots of jumping jacks and burpees and tuck jumps, and it's a lot more physical workout than Zumba. Zumba's a little bit more dancey.
I think you just were asked some questions about eating lunch with Tammy. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have the opportunity to observe what kinds of food she ate or how healthy her eating was?
Yes, because if I followed her through the lunch line, I always commented she took all the vegetables. I would usually follow through and skip the vegetables and take the cookies and stuff. And I had commented to her that she eats super healthy. I wish I ate as healthy as she did.
During that last several months before she passed, did you ever observe her to gain or lose any weight?
Judge, this is going beyond scope.
Is sustained.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mary Cross.
If the court tells me where they're going to allow me to go on recross, I will.
Just on those very first comments about her testimony.
So I also must have misunderstood. So the high fitness is one class, correct?
Yes.
When did Tammy start doing the high fitness class?
So it was the same. I had just mentioned before when they had asked me that I had said it was Zumba. We had started out doing Zumba a long time ago, and then our teacher, Chrissy, has turned it into a high fit class.
Oh, so it was all the same
So it's
class.
all been high, not all the same. It went from Zumba, right? And then we stopped and then went into a high fit
Okay.
and had been doing that for a while before Tammy and Emma joined in.
So this
So instead of Zumba, they were doing a high fit.
that was about 4 months of that, right?
Yes, and probably longer. I don't recall exactly when they started.
So it could have been a little longer, could have been a little shorter.
not shorter, but it could have been longer
Oh, how do you know that it wasn't shorter?
because I knew they were coming longer than 4 months.
Okay. Hey, Judge, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That concludes the testimony then of this witness. Is she permitted to be released from any subpoena?
From the defense, yes.
From the
Okay.
state as well, Your Honor.
All right, you're released from your subpoena. Thank you for appearing, and you may be excused.
Ingrid.
You want to get into another witness, or do you want to take the lunch recess?
Your Honor, the next witness will be a little more lengthy, and so I think we would probably end up at a weird stopping point. So we would request that we maybe just break 10 minutes early.
That would be my request as well, Judge.
I'm fine with that. We'll go ahead and take the noon recess. We'll go ahead and be in recess, and let's try and resume with additional testimony right at 1 o'clock.
All right, wait.
And I did just learn this too. It's used in words. We've already done it. It's a simple one. The other one I emailed you just has one change.
Okay, folks, thank you very much. That's what yeah, it's just, you know, you got makes both of them. And then when I turn it down, someone was pretty chance that there's no one.
All right, Mr. Bailiff, we could please have the jurors return to the courtroom.
Sure. All right, wait.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, we're back on the record on CR 22211623, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. We just concluded the lunch recess. The jurors are all properly seated and accounted for. We just completed a witness before the lunch break, so I believe the state will be calling another witness at this time. Who's going to be calling that witness?
I will, Your Honor. The state will call Detective Bruce Mattingly.
All right, you can call your witness. Thank you, Ms. Blake.
Bear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Great, thanks.
All right, now that the witness has been sworn, let me just inquire before we start with direct. Detective Mattingly, since this trial has been broadcast, have you reviewed either in person or on the broadcast any of the trial testimony that's taken place since the case started?
No,
Okay, have you discussed with anyone else the substance of their testimony?
no.
Okay, thanks for that. Ms. Blake, if you'd like to inquire, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Mattingly, would you please spell your name for the record?
Last is Mattingly, Mattingly.
Where are you currently employed?
Fremont County, Idaho Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been employed with them?
I'm going on my 23rd year.
What is your current title and or position?
Current title is Detective Sergeant for over detectives.
How long have you held that position?
I've been a detective for the last 7 years.
Have you held other positions then within the Fremont County Sheriff's Office?
I have. I've worked in the jail, worked on patrol, and as a resource officer.
Do you have any specialized training in order to be a law enforcement officer?
I do. I graduated from the Post Academy, and I earned my basic, intermediate, advanced, and master's certificates.
Were you working in Fremont County on October 19th of 2019?
I was.
Were you on shift that day?
No, I was not.
Did you end up receiving a call from someone about an unattended death?
I did.
Who called you?
That was Deputy Allie Greenhall.
Do you know why she ended up reaching out to you?
She reached out to me because she could not get a hold of the on-call detective at the moment.
And when we talk about an unattended death, can you explain to the jury what that is for purposes of law enforcement?
Yeah. A unattended death is any death, whether it's natural, self-inflicted, or otherwise accidental, that has gone on other than one that's not being attended to by a physician.
So if a physician is not present when someone passes away, you may respond out to an unattended death.
That is correct.
At the time in Fremont County, as a detective, did you respond out every time there was an unattended death?
No.
When would you respond out as a detective?
Depending on age, circumstances, possible signs of reasons for death, any obvious wounds or anything that might throw a flag up to whoever was on shift or taking the call.
And when you talk about whoever was on shift or taking the call, what position would that individual hold within the sheriff's office?
That would be a patrolman.
And was Deputy Greenalch a patrol officer at the time?
Yes, she was.
When she reached out to you, did you end up speaking with her on October 19th?
I did.
Did you learn who the decedent was?
Yes.
And who was that?
Tamara or Tammy Daybell.
Had you ever heard that name before?
If I had, I couldn't recall at that time.
Had you ever heard the name Chad Daybell at that point in time?
No, I had not.
When you received the call, did you end up asking questions of the deputy?
I did.
Do you recall what some of the inquiries you made were?
Wanted to know what she was seeing, and she described the scene to me and the state of Tammy and what it looked like, along with who found her and who else was on scene.
At that time, did Deputy Greenalch report anything suspicious to you?
Nothing was reported, no.
Did you provide any direction to Deputy Greenalch as far as what she should do?
I did. I requested of her to take a lot of photos, and my exact wording was to have her take a shit ton of photos.
Did you request she do anything else that you recall?
To talk with the coroner when she got on scene and discuss whether or not to do autopsy or retrieve blood. Mm-hmm.
And from your understanding, who makes the determination as to whether or not to have an autopsy performed?
Final decision comes down to the coroner.
So that is not a decision ultimately up to law enforcement?
No, it is not.
When you spoke with Deputy Greenalch, did she mention to you anything about pink foam or blood sputum coming from Miss Daybell's mouth?
No, she did not.
How many unattended deaths have you responded out to approximately?
Probably 80 or more.
And back in 2019, would that number have been a little less?
Yes.
Out of those unattended deaths, have you ever responded out to one where you saw the foam or the sputum?
Judge, I'm going to object to relevance.
Overruled.
I had not.
If you were told that, would that have impacted your decision on not responding out?
Yes.
And would you have responded out?
I would have.
Did you do anything else after you received that call from Deputy Greenalch?
I did.
And what did you do?
I called Lieutenant Joe Powell and gave him an update on the call Allie was on, knowing he was a lot closer than I was. And if somebody was going to be responding, he would be the most likely or the quickest one to get there.
And did you share with him the details that you had learned from Deputy Greenalch?
I had.
And again, based on the information you were provided from the deputy, a decision was made not to respond out.
Correct.
But it sounds like since then you'd learned additional information regarding the scene. Is that fair?
Yes.
Such as the pink foam.
Correct.
Do you know who the on-call detective was that night?
I do.
And who was that?
That was Detective Vincent Kayakamanu.
At some point, did you learn whether or not Deputy Greenalch also was able to get in touch with him?
She was able to, yes.
So initially, is it fair to say that on October 19th of 2019, outside of the initial response from the deputy, there was not an investigation launched into Tammy's death?
Correct.
At some point in time, did you become involved in an investigation into Tammy Daybell's death?
I did.
Do you recall approximately when that would have been?
For myself, I started about mid-December of 2019.
Do you know when Fremont County Sheriff's Office became involved?
Right at the end of October or the very first of November.
And that would be of 2019?
2019.
At the time you became involved in the investigation into Tammy's death, were you aware of any other related investigations that were ongoing?
I was.
What were those investigations?
So there were quite a few agencies involved for some different reasons. Rexburg Police Department and the FBI were looking for JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. In Gilbert, Arizona, they were investigating the attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreaux, and in Chandler, they were doing an investigation into the shooting of Charles Vallow.
And we talked about on October 19th, you had never heard of Tammy or Chad Daybell that you could recall. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Had you ever heard the name back on October 19th? Had you heard of JJ Vallow?
No.
Had you heard of Tylee Ryan?
No.
Had you heard of Lori Vallow?
No.
Alex Cox?
None.
Had you heard of Charles Vallow?
No.
So you learned of these individuals later when you became involved in the investigation. Is that fair?
That would be correct.
And would it be fair to say that it was a joint investigation?
It was, yes.
Was your focus in regards to the investigation on the death of Tammy Daybell?
It was.
Were there specific areas of the investigation that you personally focused on?
Correct. Yes, there were.
And specifically, did you look into Tammy's health?
I did.
What were some of the things you looked at in relation to Tammy's health?
So one of the things we looked at in the beginning was medical records that we were able to acquire through Seasons Medical and Teton Medical and Walmart Pharmacy.
And in talking about those medical records, you listed 3 different places. Do you know why the records were obtained from Teton and Seasons?
Those were the places that we could find that she had been to when we did our background on the prescription monitoring program through Idaho. It showed she had some prescriptions from those medical facilities. So we were able to get the records from those.
And are you personally the one that received those records?
No, I was not.
At some point, did you review those medical records?
I did.
And we talked about how you located those. And actually, I'm going to withdraw that and back up. When you reviewed those medical records, was there any indication to you in your review of health issues related to Tammy Daybell?
There were just some general health issues. She had been prescribed tramadol for some wrist pain. And then she was also prescribed fluoxetine for managing depression.
At some point, as part of your investigation, did you review statements that had been provided by Chad Daybell to law enforcement and the coroner?
I had, yes.
And were those the statements that were provided on October 19th of 2019?
Yes, they were.
When you looked at those statements, do you recall some of the things Chad had indicated in relation to Tammy's health?
Yes.
What were some of those things?
Some of them were reported as being dizzy, I believe fainting, slowing down during classes.
When you looked at the medical records, did you see any indication or reference to Tammy having any dizziness or dizziness spells?
No, I did not.
Did you see any indication of seizure or seizure-like activity being reported?
None.
Did you see any indication regarding low blood pressure?
No.
Did you see any indication that would reference or explain a slowdown in activity?
I did not.
When you looked at those statements from Chad, did you actually review the reports from the deputy on scene?
I did.
And did you learn who else was on scene or there when the initial deputy arrived?
Yes.
And who else was in the residence?
Garth Daybell.
In those reports, did you ever see Garth? Any indication from Garth that he had concerns about his mother's health?
No.
Did you ever see any indication from Chad regarding Tammy having a prior history of anemia?
No.
Did you ever see any indication that Chad had reported he was concerned because of a history of heart conditions in Tammy's family?
None.
In reviewing those reports, did you see any statements made by Emma Daybell at the time of her mother's passing?
Yes. I believe her statement was that she said her mom had been slowing down in one of the fitness classes.
Did you ever get to talk to Emma Daybell?
No, I did not.
Did you make attempts?
Yes.
And she was unwilling to speak with you?
That is correct.
When we talk about the medical records and how you located those, did Chad Daybell ever tell you about any other medical providers? Or did you learn if he told anyone about any other medical providers in law enforcement?
No, there was no other mentions.
Did anyone in his family, any of his children, ever provide you information regarding other medical providers to look at?
No, they did not.
Through your investigation, did you learn whether or not Tammy Daybell had some life insurance policies?
Yeah, I did.
What did you learn in regards to that?
I learned that she had 2 life insurance policies. One was through Primerica, and the other one was through LifeMap.
And in relation to those insurance policies, through the investigation, are you aware if some documents were obtained from specifically looking at LifeMap?
Yes,
Did you review those responsive documents from LifeMap?
I did.
Do you recall reviewing a form titled Beneficiary Statement?
Yes,
And Your Honor, by stipulation, I believe LifeMap has already been admitted, but I have what's been marked as States Exhibit 152, which is the beneficiary form just referenced, or the beneficiary statement.
And are you referring to both the beneficiary statement and the admitted exhibit?
This is just the beneficiary statement that's been marked as 152.
Okay, and that would be a new unadmitted exhibit at this time?
Correct.
Okay,
It's just part of a stipulated to exhibit, but only one part of it, so it's been marked separately.
all right. And are you moving to admit that at this time?
I would be moving for admission.
Any objection to exhibit 152 being admitted?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, exhibit 152 is admitted.
And Your Honor, if I can, I have a courtesy copy for the court and then the actual exhibit. If I can have the exhibit handed to the witness.
Thank you. Yes.
And if you look at that, Detective Mattingly, is that a accurate copy of the beneficiary statement you reviewed?
yes,
And Your Honor, I am going to ask to publish this. I'd be publishing off the Elmo.
Okay, you're permitted to do that.
Do you want the exhibit published? I have a copy, but would you like the actual exhibit published?
Yes, please.
And Detective, I think there may be a laser pointer up there, if that's beneficial as we look at this.
Could you pull that down for a second and we'll have a quick sidebar? Redacted a personal identifier information off of that before publishing. So you can continue, Ms. Blake. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Detective, you indicated you recognize this form.
yes.
And actually, I'm going to move it up. At the bottom of the form, can you see who signed this? Or not at the very bottom, but can you see who filled this out?
Chad Daybell.
And actually also, do you see the date that he signed this?
It'll be 10/30/2019.
And again, Tammy was pronounced dead on October 19th of 2019. Is that correct?
Yes,
And then if we go back to the top.
Judge,
Yes.
I don't know what's going on, but I'm seeing motion in the jury pool.
Is your monitor not working? Oh, we got a monitor not working. Thanks for,
Looks like
somebody's-
maybe none of them are.
okay. See if we can get that sorted out. Thank you. I think that might have got, still no? We're going to have a tech issue with that. I don't think we can resolve that quickly. For now, I'm going to suggest we keep moving where the jurors can still see that up there. And I'll note also you will be provided this exhibit for your deliberations if you need to reference it back.
Detective Mattingly, when we look at this form, we've already indicated it was filled out by Chad Daybell, correct?
correct.
And on there's a designation about when the health of the deceased first became impaired. Do you see that under the medical information?
I do. That'll be on the left.
What was the date that Chad Daybell wrote in there?
October 18th, 2019.
So the day before Tammy died is when he indicated her health became impaired.
Yes,
And I guess let me back up there. The day before Tammy was declared deceased, he'd indicated her health had started to have changes.
yes.
Can you also see the last date that she attended work?
I'll be on the right side. The date indicated that she last worked was on October 18th, 2019.
And then under there's a section attending physicians. Can you read into the record what Chad wrote under physician name?
Under the physician name, he wrote none. She died in her sleep.
So on this particular form, Chad Daybell didn't indicate that she was seeing any medical provider.
Correct.
Detective Mattingly, did anything on that beneficiary's form support the statements Chad Daybell previously gave to law enforcement?
No,
What else, if anything, did you do in relation to looking into Tammy's health?
I also got a search warrant from Fitbit.
And why did you end up requesting a search warrant from Fitbit?
As we were reviewing the crime scene photos, on a nightstand by Tammy's side of the bed was a Fitbit. And knowing the information that could possibly be on Fitbit, we requested a search warrant.
Did you receive responsive documents from Fitbit?
We did.
And did you yourself review those?
I did.
And Your Honor, I have what's been marked as State's Exhibit 108. It is an affidavit of records from the custodian from Fitbit. I believe this is also a stipulated to exhibit pursuant to that, but I do have that affidavit for the court and would move for its admission.
All right, Exhibit 108's been offered. Is there any objection?
Judge, it was a stipulated agreement to the parties that this information would be allowed.
All right, then without objection, Exhibit 108 is admitted.
And Detective Mattingly, in looking at that, have you seen that document before?
Yes, I have.
And you reviewed the responsive documents that that's referencing?
Yes.
Based on your review of those documents, was there quite a bit of information?
Yes, there was.
And backing up a little bit, what is it that made you get a search warrant to Fitbit or to request documents from them?
So Fitbit, in reviewing what they had to offer, we were looking for heart rate and sleep patterns in times that people are asleep, along with their activity. The reason we were looking for those is to hopefully narrow down the exact time of death or a closer period to do so.
And did you actually locate a Fitbit at the Daybell residence?
No, we did not.
How did you come to determine that Tammy Daybell may have worn a Fitbit?
So we found a picture of the Fitbit from the scene photos that Allie had taken. And then from there, we also looked into her Facebook account, which had several pictures where you could see her wearing a Fitbit.
And as part of your review of that Fitbit data, did you prepare an exhibit for today?
Yes.
Do you believe that that exhibit would aid in your testimony?
Yes, it would.
Do you believe it would aid the jurors in understanding the evidence?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, I have what's been marked as State's Exhibit 108A, and I would move for its admission.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
Exhibit 108A is admitted.
And similarly, Judge, this is actually going to be a jump drive, but I do have a print off as a courtesy.
Okay. Are you going to be publishing this, Ms. Blake?
Yes, Your Honor.
I think we might have tech available to come in here quickly and potentially get the jurors' monitors reconnected. Okay, they're on their way. Let's take a real quick just stand-up break and maybe the jurors can be excused to the hallway for a minute. And I'm hoping this will just be quick, but we'll see if we can get those monitors working again.
All right, please.
There's more to come in the trial of Chad Daybell. Press subscribe so you don't miss any of our continuing coverage right here from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.